Astalos, also known as Raizekusu in Japanese. Astalos is one of the Fated 4 for Monster Hunter Generations. I've done Mizitsune previously already, you can see that in another video. So this is the second one of the Fated 4. I do plan on doing all of the Fated 4 at some point. Glavenus is already built, and I have the parts for Gammoth, I just have to get around to doing it. This was a recent build that I did. I think I built it in May of this year, but the original design that I had months ago was based off the concept art, which was actually inaccurate to the in-game model. So I had to update it a bit for the instructions, and so it's much more accurate to the in-game model than it was previously. Like usual, there are differences between the this physical model and the instructions model, but as always, they're so minor you probably won't even notice them in the video. And the instructions version is always going to be the superior version of the model. So as I mentioned before, I used the concept art for the reference. However, I also heavily relied on the brightly colored version in Monster Hunter Stories 2. I did not use the Sunbreak version as a reference model because, like Mizitsune, its color blocking in Sunbreak is way more complex and it doesn't really look good with LEGO. So I went with the more simplistic color blocking. So as you can see, the top of the body is all black. The bottom of the body is all standard lime green. I even managed to sneak in the striping that appears on the body. So on the legs, Astalos has this unique striping that's sort of found in some bugs. I think it's a camouflage thing. But you'll see that I have striping in some areas. So Astalos has the gimmick where he charges up similar to Zynogur, but it's a little bit different from Zynogur because different parts of his body charge up. So his crest can charge up, his wings can charge up, and then finally his tail can charge up, the little pincher or pincer, however you prefer to say it. I decided for this model it would look the best if only the wings were charged up. However, in the alternative Bolt Reaver instructions, which are also available on my Patreon, it is fully charged up because I went with the full blue mode that it has, and I wanted to make sure that it was fully charged up, because that's the only way you ever see it blue is when it's fully charged up. Now it's time for a quick size comparison. As always, I have my standard, a minifigure, a random anime Gachapon figure, and a random Bionicle for larger scale action figures. And as you can see, I think he scales pretty well with the LEGO minifigure. As always, he is in the same scale as all the other monsters that I've built. His head is a little bit too big, but that's to be expected because, again, it's to help create that chibi look, to help make it look cute. And the feet are a little bit oversized, and that's entirely for stability reasons. I usually have slightly oversized feet for a lot of my models, and that's to ensure that it can actually stand. So posability on this model is not that crazy, it's pretty standard. The head can pose, the mouth can open, the neck can pose. So you can turn his head side to side, you can look up, you can look down. The tail has some ability to wrap around just a little bit for like tail swipe attacks. It can go up pretty far, it can go down and curl up pretty good. So this is what he can look like when he's flying. His tail can wrap up around the bottom, his neck can bend forward, and his wings can splay out, and he can definitely look like he's ready to attack. His wings fold up pretty nicely. It's very simple, just like that. They fold up. Each individual segment can fold out pretty far. This segment here has to be sort of used to make sure that the rest of the segments, because if I lower this has a chance of just falling down. So you just got to make sure you raise that. You can also make the wings close even more just by spinning these translucent pieces, and then the wings really fold up. Obviously, the style of wings that I have will have gaps in the wings. Astalos's wings already were kind of translucent anyway, so I was totally okay with there being some gaps in the wings. Now, his crest does not rattle like it does in game. I know that is one of his sort of defining features, but this does not move. It's just to make sure that it doesn't break. I mostly focused on stability with this model, and I wanted to make sure that it would not break even if you bend it around and mess with it. so the crest does not rattle like it does in the game. For the most part, this can stand on its own just fine. He's standing on just the 2 legs. I have some extra weight in the tail, which helps it balance itself out. You just gotta make sure that the feet are slightly forward, because if you put the feet back too much, he will just fall over. But even if he does, his wings will usually catch him, and he kind of uses his wings in attacks anyway. It doesn't really matter. It's actually good that they can even reach down this low to begin with, because it's helpful for his, if he wants to do one of those like attack poses that he does. I should clarify though, because my Bolt Reaver instructions does make the crest bigger and chunkier like it does in an in-game model, I have not actually tested to see if he balances correctly with an extra heavy head, but I feel like he should be fine. This model is quite stable too. The weakest parts are probably the wings, especially the wing claws. Yeah, like I can break them off, but this took a little bit of force. This wasn't exactly easy to break off. All of the bendable joints in the wing, in order to create that look of it expanding out, these are all quite weak. So they may just like open up on their own. I think it's just because the weight of the wings cause it to just collapse easy, which is why it's just good if his wings are folded up, you just have it in the totally folded up state, and then he looks the absolute best he possibly can, and they won't fall apart on you. Again, this model is much more stable than my other models, especially like in comparison to Mizitsune. He's not likely to break on you compared to Mizitsune. Like Brachydios, you could probably easily play around with him and, you know, shake him about, and he's not gonna break. Aside from the wings, because the wings are still the most fragile part of the build, but relatively I have not seen them break too often, mostly just on the joints, and they're easy to repair. Overall, I'm actually quite happy with this build. I experimented a lot with the wings in order to get that collapsible and expanding design. I'm sure I could probably experiment with it further, but because Astalos is not a personal favorite of mine, I was happy to settle on just this, because I think it functions fine and people will be able to play with it and, you know, mess around with it just fine without any trouble. I also feel like I learned a lot from doing Astalos, from building Astalos, that I can transfer a lot of the techniques over to some of the other monsters I'm going to do in the future, things like Legiana and stuff. To finish off, I'm going to give my quick thoughts on Astalos over some gameplay. Astalos honestly was never really a favorite of mine. I felt he was kind of unnecessary for the roster because, like, I just didn't think we really needed another Thunder Wyvern yet. I think that we had enough already. The fight in Generations was whatever for me. Like, it never blew me away. I feel I enjoy him a lot more in Sunbreak. They did a good job in Sunbreak for Astalos. His music theme is fine. Like, his music theme is absolutely fine. Some people really like it. To me, I would never put it in my top 10, but it's good. His aesthetic design is really neat because it's modeled after various insects, obviously. It's got a bug-like look. But personally, I would have been happier if they simply just made Astalos a bug monster, because right now it's a flying wyvern that's trying to be a bug, but I think it should be a bug trying to be a flying wyvern, if that makes any sense. Because it does seem strange right now, because we have to assume that it is a flying wyvern, it's not actually a bug. That's a flying wyvern in the flying wyvern family, so then why did it evolve to look exactly like a bug? Especially when the most practical form a flying wyvern could have is similar to something like Rathalos or Legiana, where they have the tough scales, but they don't really need to be like a bug. And I don't think really that like even the thunder aspect of it would cause them to look like a bug, because like Kezu exists and Kezu looks like Kezu. Yeah, I don't know. I don't really know. This is just me and my weird, like, thoughts on it. Like, because I always have weird thoughts on every monster. Basically, the bottom line, I just think that they should have just made Astalos a bug monster that happens to have a flying wyvern skeleton, not a flying wyvern that happens to look like a bug. As always, you can get the instructions for Astalos on my Patreon under the second tier membership. There's also instructions for Bolt Reaver Astalos, which I'm sure a lot of you are going to really, really like. I'm very proud of both of their designs. I want to thank all my patrons so far, and I want to thank everyone for watching this video. Absolutely love the support. I'm really, really enjoying making these videos. Even if they are a little bit weird, a little bit sloppy, I really do enjoy it. More builds are on the way. Alright, so far I've done a Fanged Wyvern, right? I've done a Leviathan, I've done a Crab, and I've done a Brute Wyvern, and I've done a Flying Wyvern. So I want to at least do one of each type before we start doing some more of the same type. So next time is going to be an Elder Dragon. It's not a popular one, but it's a classic. Kashela Diora, the Storm Dragon. You guys will really, really like this one. And Rusted, don't forget Rusted Kashela Diora as well. So, thank you all for watching. See you next time with the Storm Dragon Kashela Diora. Bye-bye!